U.S. officials are weighing additional limits on exports of American AI chips to other countries. That's according to a report from Bloomberg, with the goal of limiting certain nations' AI capabilities in the interest of national security. With more on what these possible restrictions could mean for U.S. companies, we want to bring in Yahoo Finance's Akiko Fujita. Hey, Akiko.
Hey there, Shauna. Yeah, Bloomberg is reporting those latest chip restrictions are likely to target exports to countries in the Persian Gulf, specifically those like the UAE who have touted their own AI ambitions, but also who have closer relations with China. Now, tough to say how big of an impact any export controls targeting these countries are likely to have on American chip makers. But you can look to China to glean potential fallouts. You'll remember the Commerce Department has imposed some of the most stringent restrictions on the shipments of AI chips and chip-making equipment against China, all in the name of national security to slow development of advanced technology there. And when you look specifically at the numbers here, the New York Fed assessed the immediate impact of the restrictions placed in 2022. And they found that there was a significant drop on 4 key areas for American firms that were affected. We're talking about revenue, profitability, bank credit, and employment. The study also found that those controls had a chilling effect on commercial relationships between U.S. firms and Chinese companies that were not targeted specifically by the restrictions. Essentially, Chinese companies are increasingly turning to domestic chip makers instead of American ones to avoid any kind of disruption in production. Now, the report specifically looked at the impact these restrictions have had on the valuation of these companies, the headlines that have led to significant sell-offs, resulting in a $130 billion decline in market cap. According to this study, companies like NVIDIA, Qualcomm, and Intel have seen some of the biggest declines given their exposure to China. Now, the long term, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in China projects the restrictions are likely to lead to an annual loss of $83 billion in sales for American firms and a loss of 124,000 jobs. There is also the question of how effective these controls have been. Now, the goal for the Commerce Department has been to slow down China's development of AI, advanced technology, but Chinese chip makers like SMIC have found some workarounds. In fact, there have been reports that SMIC obtained U.S. chip-making equipment illegally to develop chips for Huawei's most advanced phone. Now, you'll recall Huawei, crippled by their own export restrictions back in 2019. They have now started to see sales of their phones soar in the domestic market, chipping away at Apple's market share there. And one of the biggest impacts we have seen from these controls is a huge ramp up in China that they have made in less advanced but most widely used legacy chips. The Rhodium Group specifically reports the country is now poised to control 40% of global chip production for those mature nodes by 2027. China has now started selling some of those domestic chips for 20 to 30% discount. And guys, that's a huge problem for companies like Global Foundries who rely on some of those more mature nodes. So it's not just about advanced chips, it's also about the legacy chips as well. And we are starting to see a lot of those pieces move on the export controls that have been in place.